winner is William Hurt.
On this day in history, we remember the remarkable individuals who shaped our world. Welcome to Who Died Today in History, where we honor their legacies. From artists to leaders, their impact lives on. If you find their stories meaningful, like, subscribe, and hit the bell to stay connected. William Hurt, an Academy Award-winning actor known for his nuanced performances and intellectual approach to his craft, passed away on March 13, 2022, at the age of 71. His death was due to complications from prostate cancer, a battle he had been fighting privately for years. Unlike the sudden or violent ends that often shape the legacy of public figures, Hurt's passing was a quiet, natural conclusion to a life dedicated to storytelling and artistic exploration. Hurt's career spanned several decades, beginning in the late 1970s and peaking in the 1980s, with a string of critically acclaimed performances in films such as Kiss of the Spider Woman, 1985, for which he won an Oscar, Broadcast News, and Children of a Lesser God. He became known for his ability to bring intellectual depth and emotional complexity to his roles, often portraying introspective, conflicted characters. His work reflected an era in Hollywood when character-driven dramas and thoughtful storytelling were at the forefront of cinema. The news of Hurt's passing was met with an outpouring of respect from fellow actors, filmmakers, and audiences who had followed his career. While his death did not cause seismic cultural shifts, it marked the loss of one of Hollywood's most serious and dedicated performers. His influence extended beyond just his films. He was part of a generation of actors who bridged the gap between the method-driven performances of the 1970s and the more commercially driven landscape of the 21st century. Hurt's passing also serves as a reflection of the changing nature of Hollywood. In an era increasingly dominated by franchise filmmaking and spectacle-driven storytelling, his commitment to complex, character-driven roles stands as a reminder of a different time in cinema. His legacy is preserved in the films that continue to be studied and admired, as well as in the performances of the actors he inspired. His death highlights a broader theme in how society remembers artists. While fame can be fleeting, true artistic impact endures. Unlike political leaders or historical figures whose deaths shift the course of history, the loss of an artist like Hurt is felt in a quieter but no less meaningful way, through the continued resonance of their work. His performances remain his lasting contribution, immortalized in the films that continue to captivate audiences and shape the craft of acting. Joe Pepitone, a charismatic and often controversial figure in Major League Baseball, passed away on March 13, 2023 at the age of 82. His death, attributed to natural causes, came decades after his days as a star first baseman and outfielder for the New York Yankees during the 1960s. Though he never reached the Hall of Fame, his legacy endured through a blend of athletic prowess, off-field escapades, and his unmistakable New York swagger. Pepitone's career unfolded during a transformative era in baseball, a time when the sport was still regarded as a symbol of American tradition, but was also undergoing cultural shifts. He debuted in the early 1960s, just as the Yankees were still in their golden age, winning 3 straight pennants from 1963 to 1965. He was a gifted fielder, earning 3 Gold Gloves and a solid hitter, twice exceeding 30 home runs in a season. However, his career was often overshadowed by his larger-than-life persona. With his famous toupees, nightlife antics, and brushes with trouble, he embodied both the glamorous and reckless side of professional sports. Pepitone's later years were marked by struggles with substance abuse and legal troubles, reflecting a common theme among athletes who found it difficult to adjust to life after the game. Unlike the more polished stars of the Yankees' past, he was a man of contradictions, immensely talented but undisciplined, beloved yet frustrating. His legacy became one of nostalgia, particularly for fans who appreciated the raw and unfiltered personalities of mid-century baseball. The immediate response to his death was filled with affectionate, if somewhat wry, reflections on his career and personality. Former teammates and fans remembered him as a fun-loving, unpredictable presence, someone who brought color to the sport. While his passing did not alter the course of baseball history, it served as a moment to revisit an era when the game was played with grit and personality, before the corporate professionalism of modern sports took full hold. Joe Pepitone's death and legacy remind us of baseball's power as a cultural mirror. His life was emblematic of the temptations and pressures that come with fame, particularly in a city like New York, where legends are made and broken in equal measure. He may not have been a Mantle or a DiMaggio, but he was unforgettable in his own way. He lives on through stories, anecdotes, and the unmistakable image of a brash, homegrown Yankee with a sharp swing and a sharper sense of humor, forever part of baseball's rich tapestry. John Cazale, one of Hollywood's most revered yet underappreciated actors, passed away on March 13, 1978, at the age of 42. His death from lung cancer was a devastating loss to the film industry, cutting short a career that, despite its brevity, left an indelible mark on cinema. Cazale's passing was a reminder of the fragility of artistic brilliance and the sacrifices often made in the pursuit of one's craft. Cazale's death reflected the era's shifting Hollywood landscape. The 1970s were a golden age of American filmmaking, where character-driven stories and method acting redefined the industry. He was at the heart of this transformation, starring in only 5 films, all of which were nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards: The Godfather, The Conversation, The Godfather Part II, Dog Day Afternoon, 1975, and The Deer Hunter. His performances, particularly as the tragic Fredo Corleone, showcased a vulnerability that set him apart from his more traditionally imposing co-stars like Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, and Marlon Brando. His illness was diagnosed in 1977 while filming The Deer Hunter, but despite his declining health, he continued working. His fiancée Meryl Streep and close friends ensured he remained in the film, even as his body weakened. His death came at a time when Hollywood was embracing a more raw and emotionally charged style of acting, and Cazale embodied this shift. His roles often explored themes of weakness, insecurity, and longing, traits rarely given such depth in male characters at the time. The immediate consequences of his death were deeply personal for those who knew him. Meryl Streep, devastated by the loss, would later describe him as the greatest actor she ever worked with. His peers, including Pacino and De Niro, continued to speak of his talent with reverence. Though not a household name like his contemporaries, his legacy only grew after his passing. Younger generations of actors and cinephiles discovered his work, drawn to the haunting depth he brought to each character. Cazale's story highlights the often overlooked impact of actors who thrive in supporting roles. Unlike traditional leading men, he left an impression through subtlety and vulnerability rather than dominance and bravado. His death serves as a reflection of our relationship with memory and mortality. How true greatness is not always measured in longevity, but in the depth of one's contributions. Through his films, his legend endures, proving that even the briefest of careers can echo across generations. Marvelous Marvin Hagler, one of boxing's most formidable middleweight champions, passed away on March 13, 2021, at the age of 66. His death, reportedly due to natural causes, came as a shock to the boxing world and his legions of fans. In an era where boxing was transitioning from a raw, gladiatorial sport to a spectacle often dictated by business interests, Hagler represented the last of a dying breed. Fighters who let their fists, not promotional contracts, define their careers. Hagler's era in the 1980s was a golden age for the middleweight division, marked by intense rivalries and historic fights. He reigned as the undisputed middleweight champion for 7 years, From 1980 to 1987, a rare feat in a sport known for rapid turnover. His aggressive southpaw style and granite chin made him one of the most feared fighters of his generation. Yet, despite his dominance, he was often overshadowed by flashier opponents like Sugar Ray Leonard, whose popularity extended beyond the ring. His retirement in 1987, following a controversial split decision loss to Leonard, underscored the era's shifting priorities in boxing. Many believed Hagler had won the fight, but the judges ruled in favor of Leonard's showier style, a decision that left Hagler bitter. He never fought again, choosing instead to walk away from the sport entirely, a rare move in an era where fighters often lingered past their prime. His death, decades later, reminded fans of the fighter who never compromised his principles, both inside and outside the ring. The immediate impact of his passing was a wave of tributes from the boxing community, with fighters, analysts, and fans reflecting on his legacy. His name became synonymous with resilience, work ethic, and an old-school mentality that stood in contrast to the more commercialized nature of modern boxing. Unlike some of his contemporaries, Hagler did not seek the limelight after retirement. He lived a quiet life in Italy, reinforcing the notion that he fought for respect rather than fame. Hagler's death highlights the way we remember athletes, not just for their victories, but for their integrity. In a sport where fame can be fleeting, his legacy endures because he refused to play the game outside the ring. His impact is immortalized in highlight reels, Hall of Fame inductions, and the countless fighters who aspire to his relentless, no-nonsense approach. His life and death serve as a testament to the purity of competition and the lasting power of an uncompromising warrior. Adrienne Corri, the fiery and fearless British actress, passed away on March 13, 2016, at the age of 85. She died of natural causes, marking the end of a long and diverse career that spanned film, television, and theater. Best known for her unforgettable role in A Clockwork Orange, 1971, as Mrs. Alexander, the victim of a brutal home invasion, Corri's death was a moment for the film industry to reflect on an actress who consistently brought depth and intensity to her performances. Corri's era was one of transformation in cinema. Beginning her career in the 1940s, she witnessed the shift from classical studio filmmaking to the more daring, boundary-pushing works of the 1960s and 1970s. The 1970s, in particular, was an era that saw filmmakers challenging censorship and traditional storytelling, and Corri found herself at the heart of this shift. Her role in A Clockwork Orange, directed by Stanley Kubrick, placed her in one of cinema's most controversial films. The violent and provocative nature of the film sparked debates on media influence and censorship, reflecting the anxieties of a time when society was grappling with issues of violence, youth rebellion, and artistic freedom. The immediate reaction to Corri's passing was one of appreciation for her diverse body of work. Though A Clockwork Orange remained her most famous role, she had an extensive career in British horror and historical dramas, working alongside legends like Peter Cushing and Alec Guinness. Her performances were often marked by a commanding presence, a sharp wit, and a willingness to take on challenging roles. Unlike many actresses of her time, she was not confined to conventional leading lady roles, but embraced complex and sometimes unsettling characters which set her apart. Her death serves as a reminder of how cinema immortalizes its stars. While actors age and pass away, their performances remain frozen in time, allowing new generations to discover and analyze their work. Corri's portrayal of Mrs. Alexander remains iconic not just because of the film's controversy, but because of the vulnerability and raw emotion she brought to the role. Her legacy is further preserved in the appreciation of classic British cinema, where she remains a recognizable and respected figure. Ultimately, Corri's passing underscores the enduring power of film to capture and preserve performances that challenge, disturb, and inspire. She is remembered not just for her most famous role, but for her commitment to her craft, proving that true artistry leaves an impact that transcends time. Maureen Stapleton, the acclaimed American actress known for her depth, vulnerability, and sheer presence on stage and screen, passed away on March 13, 2006, at the age of 80. She died of chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, a natural yet somber end for a woman whose voice and presence had filled theaters and cinemas for decades. Her passing marked the loss of a performer who embodied the working-class resilience and emotional honesty that defined much of American theater and film in the 20th century. Stapleton's career unfolded during a time when American acting was undergoing a transformation. She emerged in the 1950s, an era influenced by method acting and a new wave of raw emotional storytelling. Unlike the glamorous Hollywood starlets of earlier decades, Stapleton thrived in roles that required deep emotional sincerity, often playing strong yet troubled women. Her performances in films such as Reds, 1981, for which she won an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress, and Interiors, 1978, a deeply introspective Woody Allen drama, showcased her remarkable ability to convey complex emotions with subtlety and power. Her death was met with tributes from across the entertainment industry, with many reflecting on her ability to bring a profound sense of realism to her roles. She was not a conventional leading lady, but rather a character actress who could dominate a scene with a glance, a gesture, or a simple change in tone. In an industry often obsessed with youth and beauty, Stapleton proved that talent and authenticity could carve a lasting legacy. The immediate consequences of her passing were, in part, a renewed appreciation for the kind of acting she represented, one rooted in realism, struggle, and an unfiltered portrayal of humanity. Unlike many stars who fade from public consciousness, Stapleton's work endures because it speaks to something timeless: the pain, joy, and contradictions of real life. Her legacy is immortalized through film and theater, but also in the way she influenced future generations of actors. She was a performer's performer, respected by peers and students alike for her commitment to the craft. Whether through retrospectives of her films or the continued reverence for her stage performances, Stapleton remains an example of how art can reflect the deepest truths of the human experience. Her death, like her life, reminds us of the power of storytelling and the way great performances resonate long after the curtain falls. In a world that often favors spectacle over substance, Stapleton's legacy is one of unwavering emotional truth, a reminder that real artistry never fades. Peter Tomarken, best known as the charismatic host of the 1980s game show Press Your Luck, met a tragic and unexpected end on March 13, 2006. His death was the result of an airplane crash, an accidental tragedy that cut short the life of a television personality who had left an indelible mark on the world of game shows. At the age of 63, Tomarken was piloting his small Beechcraft Bonanza aircraft when it encountered engine failure and crashed into Santa Monica Bay. He and his wife, Kathleen, who was aboard with him, did not survive. His death was particularly poignant given the circumstances. Tomarken was not on a routine flight, but was on a mission of charity. He was volunteering for Angel Flight West, an organization that provides free air transportation for medical patients in need. This final act of service speaks to the values he embodied: generosity, responsibility, and a desire to use his resources to help others. Tomarken's era was one of rapid shifts in television culture. The 1980s, when Press Your Luck aired, was a golden age for game shows, where charismatic hosts became household names. Tomarken's energy, quick wit, and engaging personality helped make Press Your Luck a cult favorite, remembered largely for its infamous whammy character and one of the most legendary game show fraud incidents in history: Michael Larson's record-breaking win by exploiting a pattern in the game's randomization. While Tomarken hosted other shows, none achieved the same iconic status. His departure from the spotlight in later years was a reminder of how fleeting fame could be in an industry that rapidly evolved with new trends and faces. The immediate aftermath of his passing was one of quiet recognition rather than widespread public mourning. Unlike major Hollywood stars, game show hosts often exist in a nostalgic space, fondly remembered but not always in the daily consciousness of the audience. However, his tragic death, combined with his previous role in one of the most memorable moments in game show history, brought renewed attention to his contributions. Tomarken's legacy lives on through reruns of Press Your Luck, which continues to find audiences decades later, and in the modern reboot of the show, where his role in the original remains a touchstone. His unexpected passing serves as a stark reminder of life's unpredictability, but also of the enduring power of television personalities to leave a lasting impression. More than just a host, he was a figure of enthusiasm, warmth, and integrity, qualities that ensure he will always have a place in the annals of game show history. Jason Evers, a character actor known for his roles in television and film, passed away on March 13, 2005 at the age of 83. His death was attributed to natural causes, marking the end of a long and varied career in Hollywood. Unlike the tragic or violent deaths that often amplify the legacies of public figures, Evers' passing was a quiet departure, reflecting the reality faced by many actors who, despite significant contributions to their craft, gradually fade from public consciousness. Born Herbert Everus, Evers was a familiar face in American television throughout the 1960s and 1970s, often playing authoritative or villainous roles. His most famous appearance came in the 1962 cult horror film The Brain That Wouldn't Die, in which he played a mad scientist obsessed with keeping his fiancée's severed head alive. Though initially overlooked, the film became a cult classic, later lampooned on Mystery Science Theater 3000, ensuring that Evers remained a recognizable figure in genre circles. His death in 2005 came at a time when Hollywood was undergoing significant change. The rise of the internet, streaming services, and digital preservation meant that even lesser-known films and television roles could find new audiences. For actors like Evers, who had once been staples of network television and B-movie cinema, their legacy was often rediscovered by younger generations, exploring the vast archives of film history. The immediate reaction to his passing was subdued. He was not a household name by the time of his death. However, his contributions to television and film ensured that he would not be forgotten. He had worked alongside major stars and appeared in popular series such as Star Trek, Gunsmoke, and Mission Impossible. These appearances placed him in the fabric of American pop culture, even if he was not always in the spotlight. Evers' legacy highlights a broader truth about fame and memory in the entertainment industry. While he did not achieve superstardom, his work endured, particularly through the cult status of The Brain That Wouldn't Die. His career is a testament to the countless actors who helped shape the television and film landscape without receiving top billing. In the end, Evers' death reminds us of the transient nature of Hollywood fame. Yet through the preservation of film and television, his work continues to be rediscovered, proving that even the most unassuming performers can leave a lasting mark on cultural history. Cor Witschge, a Dutch actor and comedian, passed away on March 13th in 1991 at the age of 65. His death was due to natural causes, marking the end of a career that had entertained audiences across the Netherlands for decades. Unlike the dramatic or tragic deaths that often elevate public figures into legend, Witschge's passing was a quieter moment, one that primarily resonated within Dutch entertainment circles rather than causing international shockwaves. Born in 1918, Witschge built a career in acting and comedy, becoming a well-known figure in Dutch radio, television, and theater. He was part of a generation that helped shape post-war European entertainment, reflecting the cultural values of resilience, humor, and artistic expression in an era still recovering from the devastation of World War II. His death in 1991 came at a time when television and entertainment were rapidly changing. The 1980s and early 1990s saw a shift toward globalized media, with Hollywood and international productions becoming dominant in many markets, including the Netherlands. This transition meant that the passing of older, homegrown entertainers like Witschge marked the end of an era when national television and radio personalities played a crucial role in shaping a country's cultural identity. While the immediate impact of his passing was largely felt within Dutch media, Witschge's contributions to entertainment ensured that he would not be forgotten. As a comedian, his humor reflected the social and cultural realities of his time, bringing laughter to audiences navigating the post-war period and the societal changes of the later 20th century. His work, like that of many national entertainers, became part of the cultural fabric of the Netherlands. The legacy of figures like Witschge highlights the importance of regional entertainment industries in preserving a country's unique identity. Though he may not have reached international stardom, his work was significant to those who grew up watching and listening to him. In this way, his career serves as a reminder that fame is not always measured by global recognition, but by the lasting impact on one's home audience. Witschge's passing underscores a universal truth about memory and mortality. While public figures may fade from the spotlight, their contributions endure through the people they entertained and inspired. In the Netherlands, his work remains a part of the country's entertainment history, proving that even in an era of rapid media change, the laughter and joy brought by performers like Witschge continue to resonate.